Here we are with another episode of Another Look. Janet, this is the vacation episode of Another Look. Our show here on the River 95.3 Sports Radio 1450, where we take a look at local news from the week in the Shenandoah Valley. We're here at the end of the week. It's Friday, August 17th. Could not have come sooner because this is, my vacation is coming up. The second we finish this podcast, I might post a couple more articles because I've hardly posted any at all because I've spent so much of this week training the guy that's going to take over while I'm gone. I haven't had time for any. And last night yesterday was crazy for me. We're both talking about how tired we are. I got here at 5 and then 5 a.m., worked in the office, training Cooper, doing different things, didn't leave until 3:30 to go to the Clark County Fair, and I didn't leave that until 7 p.m.
Another 45 minutes from Clark County Fair back here to Front Royal, where you had to swap vehicles, unless you just took the station vehicle home.
I just took it home.
But even still, you're looking at another 45 minutes on the road after you get torn down at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. So that was like a total of an hour commute and a 14-hour workday.
Followed up by the day before because you were here at 5 a.m. and didn't leave until 5 p.m.
Training Coop, taking care of stuff, typing up some sheets for Coop. So, lots of different little things going on. And we've also been cross-training for Lonnie when he takes his vacation. August, we gotta space this out as a station.
Hey, this is all you. This is you because you're the one that started this vacation nonsense.
Well, I don't know if I started this vacation nonsense. I walked into Liz's office one day and she said, "You need to take a vacation," and so does Lonnie. So we both sort of been pushed into it, which I am not objecting to. This is going to be really nice.
Yeah, for you.
Janet, I deserve this. Janet,
do you?
I really do. I really do.
So what is that threshold? What is the threshold for somebody to deserve a vacation? Because I've been here 2.5 years and not had one.
You haven't had a vacation? Well, you're also like not a full-time employee. You're not contracted. You're,
Yeah.
The scum of the station.
Do you want to drag yourself out of the hole that you just dug?
Janet, you do a ton of work for us. You do. You do. Yeah, you're very important here. And no one values you more than me.
Well, and that was evident from this week's staff meeting when you wrote my name
wrote your
on the
name
little
on
piece
the
of paper.
Yes. We write the name of the person who's helped us out most this week on the piece of paper. And what did you help me with this week?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know either.
I don't know either.
I guess for some reason I sensed that it was about time to throw you a bone.
And then I bought you lunch today.
Yeah, you did, with the money that you won from
Jeopardy.
Playing Jeopardy.
Because,
All right, so what's your local story as we creep up on the local segment?
I want to touch briefly on Warren Memorial Hospital site plan approved because, that's my pet project.
Yep.
And then I want to talk in a little bit more detail about this whole Twitter storm that then became local in a news story where Bobby Goodlatte, the son of Congressman Goodlatte, has come out in support of Jennifer Lewis, a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And also tweets in a criticism of his father.
Pretty interesting stuff.
We may talk politics in that segment. We may talk the the absolute collapse of the American family.
What is the American dream? Tonight at 9.
So those are my things.
Awesome.
I'm keeping it short for you because I know you want to be done and you want to get to the stupid news. And I do have to correct you because when we're done, we're not done.
Yeah.
We have one more episode because we're going to pre-record next week since you're going to be gone. But it's just going to be stupid news.
Stupid news. I think I can get through that one. I just got to push through this local stuff, and then the rest of it is just laughter and delirium. I'm going to talk about in my local segment, Winchester EDA is hoping for 48 new city apartments in this corner it bought of West Piccadilly and North Kent, I believe it is, streets. But the problem is that they're now in a war with the, the Board of Architectural Review?
Of course.
In Winchester, because there are 5 historic buildings. Oh, you have an opinion about this.
Not specifically about this, but just about this Board of Architectural Review and historic buildings. And sometimes stuff just needs to be torn down, people.
Oh, you're on that side of it. Okay.
Sometimes.
We'll start. Well, all right. We'll start with that then. When we come back after the break, we'll have some more Another Look.
Hello, it's Janet again. In addition to producing podcasts for the River 953 and our clients, I also host a show every weekday on the air from 12:30 till 1 called The Valley Today. It's a community conversation where I chat with local business owners, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents about what's happening up and down the Shenandoah Valley. You can hear the show live each day on the radio, you can listen live from our website, or you can listen to the podcast of the show each afternoon on our website at theriver953.com from the Valley Today page. You can even subscribe to the podcast in the Apple Podcast app or the Google Play Music Store and have it delivered directly to your phone once it's published. So join me for a conversation this week. And if you're interested in being a guest or advertising in that podcast, send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. And now, back to the podcast.
And we're back with some more Another Look. We're going to start. Janet's been very gracious. She will allow me to begin. So we're going to talk about the EDA. So for those of you who don't know, this all started a few months ago. Well, really, I mean, it started over the winter because over last winter, the EDA started working with this LLC it established, Piccadilly Street Investments LLC, and it just started buying up a bunch of properties at this corner of Piccadilly Street and Kent Street, East Piccadilly, North Kent. And it was buying up these properties, and the hope was to make this major development. And this development would have 45 to 48 apartments. It would have those residential units. It would have retail stores. It would have ground floor parking. It would be this multi-story complex. That is like the dream. That's what they wanted.
And it's perfect for downtown Winchester.
Yeah. So ever since they did that, of course, there have been like stumbling block after stumbling block. I mean, it's a huge development, and in a big town like Winchester, it's technically a city. It's you're going to hit these stumbling blocks. So it all started when they basically decided that, hey, we actually need the town to convey us a little acreage. It was 0.4 acres of town land along a roundabout connecting National Avenue and East Piccadilly Streets. Without this extra property, without this extra land, the property and the project would likely be unviable. Because with that extra land, I think they would be able to, they would meet a green space requirement, which is important in the downtown area. And they would also be able to squeeze in, I believe it was like a couple more apartments. They would have like an extra space for that as well and help with the commercial viability of the project. Okay. So but that was like that did not seem like a done deal if they could not get the city to convey that land.
They would still figure out a plan B.
It seemed like there was a workaround.
They just really didn't want to.
Yeah, it didn't seem too major. Okay. Then
and then
something else comes along. And what essentially ends up happening is the Board of Architectural Review gets involved, because what they discover is in this list of buildings that the EDA and Piccadilly Street Investments wants to demolish to make room for this complex, there are some historic buildings. And the Board of Architectural Review made this recommendation to basically just did not give approval for 5 of those buildings to be wrecked. Now, among those buildings is one that was built back in 1850. So we are talking historic. We are talking like this is like a Civil War building right there. So it's significant. It's not like 1901. It's not like, and we've got a few of those properties as well. So that's the issue. So now the town council is sort of like weighing in on this war between the BAR and the EDA. And
it's a war of the alphabet.
Yeah. So this past Tuesday, they basically, Winchester City Council was hearing arguments from both sides where this alphabet soup warfare began. The Protection Act happened on July 19th, and so basically the BAR is saying, look, these are historic buildings. We recommend that they stay here. We cannot be demolishing. We have to have respect for them, and these are like landmarks basically for us. The EDA is like, okay, look at this. Our property is going to be worth something like, I think the figure was $11 million. Currently, as it sits, it's worth about $1 million. These properties they want to protect. Yeah. So. Come on, we're adding a bunch of value, and then they're also saying that they're increasing the usable space in that block as well, and they're already, it's hard. There's already an affordable housing issue in the area, and so that is a factor as well. So it's basically It's kind of economics versus culture, economics versus history. You could call it pragmatism versus idealism kind of a argument overall. But where do you come out on this? Because you seem kind of strong-willed there.
So here's my first question. My first question is, okay, so these are, I'm not arguing that they are probably valuable historic buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Have they been maintained? At what point did the BAR suddenly become interested in these buildings? Because it's one thing if it is a building that has been maintained and has been published somewhere as a National Historic Landmark or a Winchester landmark, and the grass has been mowed and minor things have been done to keep it from falling down. That's one thing. If it hasn't, and it just looks like an old building that's falling down, that suddenly now the BAR wants to rally around as this is historic, you can't tear it down. You don't get to have that argument both ways.
That is a good point, because I believe, and I would have to do the research and get back into this story again. It's been a few days since I've looked at this, but I believe they were vacated buildings, so it's unclear whether or not they were maintained. But then again, I don't know that that's necessarily the BAR's fault, because look at Robert E. Ayler. I mean, that was a viable school project, and they were haggling over $7 million because Frederick County's already $126 million in debt.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with Winchester? The EDA spent all this money on these buildings. I mean, so does the BAR get a budget?
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, this, you said earlier, this project has been in, the planning stages for several months. It's probably been in the discussion stages even longer than it actually came to light in the news cycle.
That's a good point, too. So you're saying, like, even before winter, when they were buying up properties.
Did they not know this? These specific properties, did they not know this was coming? And how could they not, considering all around where this is like the last piece of that particular section of Winchester? So they couldn't possibly think that when they tore all the other buildings down, and then they did the Timbrook Public Safety Building first, and then tore all of these other houses and did all of this other redevelopment, that they were going to leave this other corner the way that it was.
I mean, it's funny because it's one of those things where I don't think, if I'm looking at it from the EDA's perspective, I don't think that the EDA is going to sit there and say, like, oh, should we check with the Board of Architectural Review before we buy up this project? I think they're thinking, better to ask forgiveness than permission. And frankly, if we put our money and our manpower behind this, because we're not going to be able to please everyone, because it's not just the BAR we have to worry about. We got to worry about town council approvals. They had to rezone the whole thing. They buy these things on spec, and they are trying to. And that's the other point too. They bought these individual properties. This complex, it doesn't have to be a complex. They can go ahead and basically court businesses and restructure these properties a little bit and sell them in a different way than just this complex. They don't have to demolish everything. So there are other options. Yeah. But I think they might be right. It might be their best course of action to just go whole hog, walk like a bear into the China or bull into the China shop, and just say, keep going until you finally hit that stone wall where somebody says no and we have the power to stop you.
Well, and that's just it too. So here's something you're probably never going to hear me say again.
Okay, let's do it.
There comes a point when big government needs to take a step back.
Oh, look at Janet toting the guns.
But I mean, think about it. So these properties have been purchased. They were owned by somebody, and the city or whomever bought them.
Right.
So why is it that now suddenly this board gets to come in and tell an individual landowner what he can and can't do with property?
Well, I mean, and that's tough because there are certain regulations that are important, and it does really get back to how much do we really value our historic properties.
Exactly. And that's when you need to be on top of those and know here's where they all are. And we need to know this is where they are and what the potential uses for them could be, and start putting things in place to prohibit this from ever getting to the point that it's gotten to now.
Is the Board of Architectural Review, I mean...
it's like a commission or something.
It's like a commission. I mean, it just votes like yay or nay on certain items. Yeah. But I mean, so there's a separate... Does the government preserve some of these historic buildings? Are there just preservation societies that get some government funding?
And they get grants and tax credits and things like that.
Yeah, so we can't even hold the bar responsible for that.
And the thing is, I mean, these Board of Architectural Reviews in most of your localities are residents, and they sit for X number of term. So you may have 6 people that sit on this, and 3, they may sit for 2-year terms, and 3 of them get come off, and then 3 of them go on, and that sort of thing. So who's to say in, another period of a year or two, they have a new makeup of their board, And that board decides, you know what, we just want some of the bricks. We want to be able to salvage some of the pieces from the building so that we can put them in a museum somewhere. That's the frustrating thing for this. It's not even like there's an actual statute that they're breaking. This is all left out to whoever thinks what at any given time because they happen to sit on this commission.
Oh, it's a tough issue. It's a tough issue. There are no easy answers, Jan. There are no easy answers.
If they just call me, I'd tell them.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of which, we're going to call on you in a few minutes to talk about, you'll dabble in the Warren Memorial Hospital, and that's had controversy for different reasons, really, than the site plan approval. But the big story is big story is that nothing really happened, but something kind of political and hinky and interesting happened at the same time. So we're going to talk about this Bob Goodlatte, head-to-head challenge and see what that's all about. So we'll talk about that and more when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look, and we are here with Janet. Janet, you're going to start by talking about, I see you got the Warren Memorial Hospital sheet there in front of you.
Yes.
You wanna get into that? You want to describe what happened was? It's kind of a brief story that I wrote.
Is.
It's pretty simple.
It's one of those, like a dog with a bone. You can't let it go. I'm just excited to see Front Row Planning Commission at its regular meeting earlier this week approved unanimously the site plan for the new Warren Memorial Hospital. So, there was a lot of stuff that's gone around. It's probably still going around. I've just, put my blinders on and am not looking at it anymore. But there was a lot of people up in arms about what the new hospital would and would not offer from a service perspective.
Right.
So I'm glad to see that it's moving forward. The new place is not going to have a birth center, which is where most of the controversy lies. However, it's going to have 36 private rooms, a cardiac catheterization lab, and 18 emergency rooms. It's going to have a medical and a medical office building. It's going to be an amazing benefit for this community. And the fact that less than one person a day was having a baby at the current Warren Memorial Hospital, I think is such a small thing.
I am actually impressed because, being in this job, I've kind of learned how slowly the gears of bureaucracy move. I'm impressed that at the earliest this could be done by 2020. I'm impressed that they could break ground by this summer. By this summer, that means like the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Do you want me to get you an invitation to the groundbreaking? Because I know people.
Oh, yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the fact that I've been in favor of this project from the beginning. I am not sponsored in any way.
Can I hold the shovel?
I don't know.
Is that harder to maneuver?
I don't know.
I don't care. Why now? Let's get on to the real news, Janet. Bobby.
Okay, so first I must chastise you.
Why?
Because I found this story.
Yeah, you did.
Came to you with this story.
You came to me with this story Monday night, was it?
Yes. And is my name anywhere in this article that you crafted and put on the website?
You saw a tweet. What I went ahead and made was art.
And this is where the chastisement comes in.
Yeah.
You got to get on Twitter, man.
I know.
This is where all of the news happens.
But I hate all that stuff. It's all social media. To get the news on Twitter, I also have to bear with every stupid person's thought about everything. And
you can gloss over stuff. There are some of the funniest people on the planet on Twitter.
Did you see, well, you don't listen to the morning show, do you? You're very vocal about that around the office. I don't listen to you. I don't listen to you. I don't care.
I don't listen. Well, and in all fairness, I don't listen to any morning show because I listen to podcasts on my phone.
No, that's true. And to be honest, when I'm driving, I podcast it up. I do.
Yeah.
I listen to this podcast, Another Look, which I find
on the Apple Podcast app because you are an iPhone user.
That's right.
But if you're an Android, you can get it in the Google Play Music Store.
That's right. Where you can also get, can you get the Valley Today there?
Yeah.
Where you can also get the Valley Today podcast.
How about that? Which reminds me, I have a new commercial to give you to insert into this particular podcast for the Valley Today.
The Valley Today.
Yeah, how about that? So anyway,
let's talk Bobby. Yeah.
Goodlatte. So I see a tweet on Twitter that was at first I'm going to say allegedly because I didn't really know because that is one of the downsides of Twitter is you don't always know who's tweeting and
you mean
could be a fake
sourcing isn't
account.
Twitter? It's
shocking, I know, but that's the case.
Weird.
But there was somebody who had retweeted a tweet that what he said was a good friend of his, Bobby Goodlatte, who had come out in support. His tweet was, "I just gave the maximum allowed donation to Jennifer Jennifer Lewis, a Democrat running for my father's congressional seat. I've also gotten 5 other folks to commit to donate the max. 2018 is the year to flip districts. Let's do this.
And so federal laws state that $2,700 is the max donation.
Yep.
So what he's saying is overall that's going to be $13,500.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little chunk there, especially for Jennifer Lewis, because she's at a huge funding disadvantage. Her opponent, it's Ben Klein. Mm-hmm. He has something over $300,000.
Almost $400,000. He's got $393,000 plus.
And she's that was as of
the 14th.
As of the 14th. And she only has 70,000.
Yeah.
So she's sort of the spunky outsider on this. And I mean, frankly, if I look at Ben Klein, like one of the first things you see on there is NRA endorsements. So he may be getting some donors from there.
Well, and for me, I've not ever personally been a fan of Goodlatte. Mm-hmm. As many of you know here around
You've
the
been
station,
very vocal about that. Yeah.
I am somewhat vocal, and I don't even. It's difficult for me to even say his name because I'm so used to calling him Bad Latte.
And I have no opinion on Goodlatte. I've met him once, and he seemed nice enough when I met him.
But the thing that kind of struck me above and beyond anything else is, I mean, he's a very conservative Republican congressman. He decided that he was stepping down. He was retiring, I guess, at the end of his term. So he will be done in November. That's what's has brought this election on. The fact that his son would come out in support of not only someone who's not a Republican, who's not conservative, who is a woman, I didn't know whether to think, okay, good for this guy for taking a stand.
Right.
I was torn. Because I'm thinking on one hand, hey, this is, Goodlatte must have raised himself a pretty good kid. He must have raised himself. He must have been a pretty good father, not because of this particular choice, but the fact that this kid felt that it was okay to stand his ground, stand up for what he believed in, and say, this is what I'm going to do and this is why I'm going to do it, even though he knew it meant flying in the face of what his father stood for and believed.
Well, and so that's the funny thing, too, though, because So
it was the parent versus the political junkie in me at odds.
Yeah, well, I had a discussion with my family about this. We were talking about it, and they, when we were talking, they kind of had this perspective of even if whether or not you agree that Bobby Goodlatte is in the right and that Bob Goodlatte's political positions are wrong, they disagreed with the way that he has been openly in public criticizing his own flesh and blood. They say, like, you sort of stay away from making it into a public spectacle, and you are respectful to your elders and to your family. And in particular, talking about the second half of that article that you've got there, which is after he posted the tweet about donating to Jennifer Lewis's campaign, he posted another tweet following the firing of Peter Strzok about his father, because his father, Goodlatte, is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, and he led that committee's basically evaluation of the FBI's response to the 2016 election, which Peter Strzok was the main testimony for that. And he called what his father did in that committee grandstanding, and he said he said in so many words that he was ashamed of it.
He was deeply embarrassed that his father's political grandstanding ruined this gentleman's career, thanked him for his service, and declared him a patriot.
Now, if the donation is passive aggressive, that's aggressive.
Yes,
that is it getting in the public arena and making this family quarrel like a public spectacle. It's not a family quarrel; it's politics. But it's basically.
Well, it's different from the story that you covered in Stupid News a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a month or two ago, where the father and the son, were going to run for political office, and one was a Trump supporter and one was not.
Yeah, and they were both
different.
They were joking about it, but
Yeah.
I mean the stakes are so much smaller there too. And so I kind of have like a mixed bag of it's honestly a situation where I don't know if I shared Bobby Goodlatte's beliefs, which I may not. But I don't know what I would do in that situation. I don't know if I would err on the side of maybe showing my father too much respect if I held that opinion and keeping silent on the whole matter, or if I would err too much on the side of being hotly critical in public and basically attempting to publicly shame my father for his political actions and trying to throw a little mud on his career, which is the kind of DC infighting that you see from complete strangers on other sides of the aisle. So it was a very shocking tweet, a very interesting tweet. He got a lot of support, though, also from the Shark Tank guy,
Chris Sacca.
Chris Sacca. And so he's that was really incredible to see that, because I've seen that guy on TV. I recognize that guy.
Well, I will tell you, first of all, from the perspective of not having a dog in this fight.
Yeah.
Goodlatte is not in my district, so I wouldn't vote for him either way or the other. So it's not that doesn't, from a voting perspective, doesn't affect me at all. I will tell you, as someone who comes from what I will call, based on your last statement about having this conversation with your family, I come from the opposite of your family. So I will tell you that.
Oh, so you're saying that you've had more butting heads kind of thing? Okay, our family's very tight-knit.
Exactly.
We're
You're all very close. You talk to each other, that sort of thing. And I am like that with my husband and my kid.
Yeah.
But not so much with my parents.
Yeah.
So I could see a situation where I would come out against my mother more so than my father, but that's a whole nother show.
You've done it on this show,
I've done it on this show.
On this show, you've come out against
but that's something else to kind of think about when you see this gentleman, in Congressman Goodlatte, who puts himself out there as, in my opinion, this holier than thou, I have the right way, this is the way we should be doing things, and this whole world is going to crap. Follow me, this is where the problems are. And yet, he clearly has issues at home in order for his son to feel like this is okay.
Which is really like the most, that's why it got so much attention, because that's very personal. I mean, you imagine it makes you imagine their home life, what that childhood must have been like with Goodlatte, and it becomes very personal, more personal than politics maybe should be.
Right.
But it's fascinating nonetheless. But I think this is a good point for a break.
Yep. And I'm going to be watching this election.
Oh man, am I. But I just want to close this segment with saying, Bobby Goodlatte, if you're listening, you have an invitation to come on anytime you want for a newsmaker. If you want to come on the podcast, we would love to get an interview with that guy.
I will buy you a good latte.
We got to try and tweet him and see if we can. Yeah. So there you go. And he liked our tweeted story. We tweeted this story, the River 95.3, and he liked.
Tweeted this story?
I'm sorry, I wrote the story and did the work.
After I gave you the information.
All right, you did a few
Go to break,
clicks.
Dylan. Go to break.
And we'll be back in a few minutes with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look. It's what you've been waiting for. It's the primetime segment of Another Look. It's lights, it's camera, it's action, it's dumb news. What everyone wants to hear.
Yeah.
Hilarious, crazy.
And contrary to what some people might think, that's not what we've been doing the whole time.
No. Yeah, I know. At times it seems like dumb news, but I swear.
And at times we're the dumb ones.
It's true. Speak for yourself. So... You want to start off, Janet, with your dumb story? Because I doubt it can beat mine, and I want to end with a bang. So,
all right, then I'll give that to you because it's your vacation week.
Oh, that's very generous.
Yes. So my story dates August 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Headline. Naked man breaks into liquor store to steal 1 can of soda.
No, wait, did you sell just soda at the liquor store?
Apparently.
What state is this?
A man in Georgia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, every store's a liquor store in Georgia.
Wearing no clothes, broke into a liquor store Monday and stole a can of soda. Police said Charles Wyatt, 61, used a hammer to break the glass of Beverage World.
So it sounds like he was just fresh off a contracting job.
Yeah.
When he was naked roofing someone's house, and then he just stepped down.
And the store's name was Beverage World, so he may not have known it was a liquor store.
Yeah.
He just needed a beverage.
Beverage World.
Did it early in the morning. Surveillance video.
Oh, wow.
They did not have that on the New York Post. Very, very disappointed in the New York Post.
Yeah, that's not quality journalism.
No, it's not.
Is
not
it?
At all. Surveillance video shows the man entering the store completely naked, except for his shoes, which is good because he could have cut his feet on the broken glass,
and that would have been really bad.
And that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
He then steals a Coke and wanders around drinking it before lying down for a little while.
On a bed of broken glass. Oh, hopefully not on his stomach.
He was arrested around 4 a.m. after exiting the store and charged with burglary, theft by taking, and possession of tools for the commission of a crime. The owner of the store said he was relieved because he figured Wyatt wasn't trying to rob him. We've shown a couple of people the video because, everybody wants to see a naked man wandering around a liquor store.
Also, who's a couple of people?
Yeah.
Like, do you mean your CEO or do you mean like...
Well, he says we've shown a couple of people the video, some of our salespeoples. Again, it's Georgia.
The peoples, yeah.
Everybody is kind of amazed. It's kind of funny right now, but it wasn't at the time. 3 nights prior to the break-in, police encountered Wyatt walking naked along a road in front of the liquor store and had sent him to the hospital. Wyatt reportedly has diminished mental capacity, according to police, and had missed a few doses of his medication prior to the first incident.
So it's one of those things. And here I've been giggling like a fool the whole time.
But it's still
pretty funny.
Yeah.
I got to say,
even if you weren't on medication, if you had broken into a liquor store and walked around naked, I'd think that was funny. That'd be worth a giggle.
Yeah, see, you wouldn't watch the video probably.
No, and I certainly wouldn't show it to people. I don't know. I might put it on Twitter. I tweeted at Bobby Goodlatte.
The Twitterless Dylan would never know, would he?
Hey,
Bobby.
Hit me up. Your dad would hate this video.
Man.
That's what I got. So
I like it. I like it. No, it's a good story.
It didn't get the, completely losing your, But
but it was funny, and honestly, I kind of admire the guy. I mean, to use a hammer to be naked and to break into a liquor store.
So he didn't have a tool belt. I guess he was just carrying the hammer.
No, if he had a tool belt, he could have been a village person.
A village person. Yeah, break into the store and then start into the YMCA.
Oh, God. Oh, go off the Y, go off the Y. Please.
Let's have it.
All right. So, I'm not going to read the headline. I'm going to build this up a little bit.
Of course you are.
All right. So, a fella, he walks into a Missoula Arby's, right? And the guy just wants a soda. So what does 48-year-old Daniel Stein do? He walks into the Arby's and he asks for a cup for a soda. Except he asks for one of those free water cups they give out that you don't have to pay for.
I like this guy already.
So they give it to him.
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's an entrepreneur. He's an investor. He's invested in a free water cup. Let's see where this goes. Oh, and the money does skyrocket after a while. So he grabs it, and he goes ahead to the soda machine, but then he starts filling it up with some Coke. And as he's doing this, he literally just talked to the cashier, said, "I want a water cup," then filled it up with a Coke. So the cashier walks over.
Didn't even go to the bathroom or something to kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And so the cashier walks up and says, "Sir, I'm sorry, that's just for water." And he's irritable and, "Sir, I'm really sorry. That's just for water." When confronted by an employee who informed him that he had to pay for the cup of soda, he refused, and so he left out of one of the entrances in a huff. So the employee followed him out into the parking lot
because
he made off with the soda, I guess, and she told him, I guess it's their policy, like, to let them know, like, you cannot come back into this Arby's if you're just going to steal from us. So the employee went out and said, "You're not welcome back here." And so the guy looks back at her, and he's mad, and he starts to walk away. And then he charges back, and he goes in for a kick. Oh! And he misses completely. And the employee stumbles back, and so then the employee runs in and starts to call the cops because the guy just tried to assault her, escalate the situation. Then the guy panics, and he runs into a nearby store, which is probably another Arby's. They probably make them side by side in Missoula. It's probably a whole block of just Arby's.
There's probably like a bunch of them side by side, and one has the A, and one has the R, and one has the B, and you got to get your roast beef in one and your fries in another, and he was in the wrong one. He was in the soda one.
Welcome to Soda Arby's. Welcome to roast beef Arby's. So yeah, long story short, he runs into the second Arby's location and immediately hides in the bathroom there. Well, everyone saw him run in. Everyone saw him in both Arby's. They saw him run into that bathroom. So when the cops come, they immediately go into the bathroom. And the guy is still aggressive, holding his illegal soda and hunched over in the bathroom, and they say, "Sir, we need you to step back, turn around so we can, coffee and we can talk about this." And he makes a posture like he's going to charge him, makes like a charging, lunging motion. They whip out the stun guns, they taser his butt in that Arby's bathroom, drag him out. And so, as the article so eloquently puts it, the large soda would have been less than $2. Stein now faces an initial bail amount of $50,000. Because, and this is what really confuses me, this makes sense. 4 misdemeanors, including criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, obstructing a police officer. They wrote peace officer. I guess that's weird. Yeah. And resisting arrest. But then they put it down as a felony robbery charge. Why a felony robbery charge? Is it because he assaulted the person as he was taking the soda? Does that upgrade it to a felony charge?
But he didn't actually assault her. It was attempted assault because he missed when he kicked her.
He took a wild swing. Something tells me he was drunk.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, which also explains why he's at Arby's.
And quite frankly, the sodas are better at McDonald's. It's
What
something
does
about
that
the
even
ice.
mean?
It's something about the ice.
No,
I'm telling
you're
you,
crazy.
a McDonald's
What
Coke
does that
is the
even
best
mean?
Coke on the planet.
Because the
even better
ice-
than a Coke that you steal naked from a liquor store. It is still the best Coke on the planet at McDonald's.
But Janet, that high when you're naked in a liquor store drinking a well-earned Coke. Come on.
I mean, I can't believe you didn't at least put some rum in it. I mean, come on.
I know. Well, but it's equivalent to a runner's high when you do something like that. So I'm sure he was like feeling high enough. He's like, rum would only dampen these spirits.
So America's roast beef, yes, sir.
Yeah, we both had some decent stories.
And that wasn't, that was my middle of the road because I know that the episode we're about to record that won't be released for another week. I've got one that we're not even going to be able to do on the podcast. We're only going to be able to put the link in the show. And then I've got one that's going to creep you out, one that's going to make you giggle, one that's going to make you laugh, especially given where you're about to go, and one that you're just going to find kind of ironic because I agree with the stupid news story.
So
top
Florida
that, buddy.
in there. Do you have 4 stories in there left?
I do, man.
I only have 2 left.
Hey, well, then I win.
All right, so tune in for that, I guess, because Janet's packing double the firepower. Can she finally beat Dylan? The suspense is killing you. Tune in next time for some more Another Look.